Keith Cooke, how are
Yeah,
you, sir?
I'm doing well, thank you. As well as can be expected with the everything, being locked up in the house a lot and stuff, but doing good, thank you.
Yeah, I know, tough times. I know you've got your martial arts dojo out there in Brentwood, California. So I suppose
Yeah,
that's all shut up at the moment, is it?
it's been shut since March 13th. Been a while. Yeah.
Man,
I
yeah.
don't even know. I'm very doubtful to be going back to the same location now. And I've been there for 26 years, 27, going on 27. Yeah.
Oh,
So
why is that?
it's a little bigger than what I think I'll need after this, because I think things are going to change a little bit. It feels like it anyway. So we'll see. It's a big storefront place and it's expensive, and I just want to, you know, tone it down a little bit.
Yeah.
So
Well, I've been watching you since I was a little kid. I first saw you in China O'Brien. I
okay,
guess I was maybe 13, 14, something like that. In England, there was this video called The Best of Martial Arts Films. And it
yeah,
came out at the same time as China O'Brien.
okay,
And I would watch that over and over again. And it would always show, your stuff from China O'Brien,
yeah,
that triple kick that you do in that and
yeah.
in King of the Kickboxers. I remember just trying to get that kick down for ages and ages, pulling my groin left, right,
Oh,
and center.
you've
But I,
got amazing kicks, man. You're beautiful kicker. Wow,
well, thank you, Keith. That's
very
because
impressive.
I watch people like you, and we start off where you guys show us what's possible, and then we do that, and we take it a little bit further. And now there's kids doing kicks that I can't even believe. It
Yeah,
embarrasses me. It's
yeah.
just incredible.
I
These
was just
triggers.
looking at your one kick though, where you spin around and then you kick back the other way too.
Oh, the Guyver.
The what? The
The
Guyver.
Guyver kick, we call it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's an amazing kick. That was.
Yeah.
I like
You
it.
stole that one. But I have to say, honestly, I'm not blowing smoke. You are one of the best kickers I've ever seen in
Oh,
all
thank
these years.
you. I
I mean,
worked at it hard. I worked at it hard, and had a lot of inspiration.
you're up there with the Donnie Yens, the Scorpion King guy. I mean, just amazingly clean, crisp, powerful, fast.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the Beijing wushu team when they came and toured, and I think it was 1974 or something like that, if I remember right.
Right.
And Jet Li was a little kid, and he was touring with them. He was like, I don't know, 6 or 8 or something like that, and he was just amazing. And I was just blown away by those guys. And my instructor, who was a Chinese Chinese martial arts instructor, but he was actually born in China. He was Chinese, and he was had videos of the wushu guys, and I was just like, wow, these guys are tremendous. I can't believe it. And then I got to go there in 1980, and actually, it's funny, but I know Donnie a little bit because we went on the same trip because my instructor knew his mom, Basim Mark,
Oh yeah,
the Tai Chi instructor. She's a Tai Chi master, and
yeah,
we went on the same trip to China to train, and we went to the national championships. And Donnie demonstrated mantis form there, and I was demonstrating a lot of like fighting stuff with partners that I went there with and stuff like that. And I went there and learned, forms and stuff. But I was amazed because I thought, wow, these guys are going to be tremendous fighters. And then when I got there, I realized they don't even fight. They don't
yeah.
even train in fighting. And so I was pretty naive, but I was very impressed. And I was going to ask you about this was, like I think that jump kicks are like really good for anyone to train on for a lot of reasons, for agility and speed, but rhythm, because I learned a lot when I went to China about jump kicks, because I was like, how do these guys jump so high?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it was, rhythm, like I felt like I could jump higher when I trained with them because it sort of rub off on me, because they would do that line kicking with the jump kicks and you'd
Yeah.
follow in and you start to pick up on the rhythm. And one of the things I noticed is they kick really early in the jump. And so it looks like they're floating back down afterwards, like there's more time for the landing. And so I've always been a big fan of that, like trying to teach that to the students, and that even if you're not going to use jump kicks when you fight or something like that, it's a great thing to train in, you know?
Well, it's, you know, there's many facets to the martial arts, isn't there? And there's the combat, but then there's the fun to be had of just trying to do these athletic kicks and
Oh
you
yeah.
know, the pretty kicks and things like that. And there's a lot of enjoyment to be had from that.
Yeah.
But please, Keith, tell us what is your martial arts background, as succinctly as possible, because, you know, otherwise we'll end up with a 2-hour show, I think, because you're
Yeah.
pretty much a master of many. But how did you get into it, and which are the main martial arts you practiced?
Well, I was one of those, you know, smaller kids who got bullied a little bit. And so I was really interested and started getting interested in it like in the early 70s, and started learning it from books a little bit. And then in 1973, you know, I'd already seen some Bruce Lee movies. I was like, oh man, I bet nobody messes with that guy, you know?
The same for everyone, isn't it, Bruce Lee?
Yeah. I mean, it was just like, wow, you know, I just had to figure out a way. And so from what I knew, he did Kung Fu. So I wanted to do Kung Fu. And so I basically started calling around in Seattle, trying to find, you know, the best Kung Fu school. So I called around and figured the most expensive one must be the best. And it turned out they wouldn't even let me in to watch a class. And then I saw this guy doing a demo, who was the guy who turned out being my instructor. His name's Roger Tung. And, you know, I thought he looked like Bruce Lee, talked like Bruce Lee, you know, and so I was sold. And so I stayed there for a long time. But oddly, he had a black belt in Taekwondo and Japanese karate, and he was, you know, he taught Kung Fu and Tai Chi. So it was one of those one-stop shopping centers at his school. You know, he had a lot of older people doing Tai Chi. And back then, you know, I know you're quite a bit younger, but, you know, like there weren't as many kids doing martial arts before the Karate Kid and the Power Rangers and all that stuff. So even though I started when I was about 12, it was, you know, it was odd to see kids much younger than me doing it, really, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, so I had that Taekwondo background. He taught a lot of Taekwondo kicking from the very beginning, which I've always loved. And then when I started competing in tournaments, I started making friends outside of just my school who I would train with. And then I went to the University of Washington, and that was the most amazing place because they had a boxing club for students, and I became the president of the boxing club, actually. And so I practiced and learned a lot of boxing when I was in college, and I've always been a boxing fan. I just thought it was so amazing because I always felt like when I got inside close with someone, I would feel like, you know, like I can't watch what's going on. And I'd see these guys, you know, duck really fast and come up and pop someone. And I was like, wow, how do they do that? That's amazing. You know, so I just wanted to learn a closer in style. And then I met a lot, because they had a boxing room in the intramural sports building and at the University of Washington, everybody used to come there. They had a boxing ring. And so Friday nights was like open sparring night. And I just met a lot of guys that I end up training with. And then when I moved to Los Angeles in 1985, I met a guy named Steve Fisher, who's a, you know, very well-known competitor kickboxer. And I started training at his school at the recommendation of Arlene Lemus, who you might know. She got a gold medal in Seoul, Korea in 1988 for Taekwondo.
Oh, I don't know, but I should know.
Really,
yeah, sure. Yeah.
She's a really prominent fighter on the national karate circuit here, and was a rival of Linda Denley, who was the other one. And they both ended up being teammates of mine. And then, you know, I was on a couple of professional teams, trained with a lot of guys from different styles. And that was just a great experience, you know, like Billy Blanks, Steve Nasty Anderson. One of my favorite martial artists of all time is a guy named Kevin Thompson, who they called Little K.A. He was just a badass. He could box. He did forms, fighting, everything, and did them all like with his whole heart, you know? And it just felt like, you know, like such an honor to be able to work out with these guys. So
Well, because I was going to say that when I first saw you, I thought, kung fu didn't come into my head. I would think of like a taekwondo sort of kicker, the way you would kick. And so
Yeah,
when I
yeah.
did see you doing the forms and all the bow staff and the broadsword and everything, the Chinese forms, I was a little bit surprised because you have that taekwondo kicking ability.
Yeah. I love the Taekwondo, and there was also a Taekwondo club at the University of Washington. I trained with those guys all the time. And then I was really lucky that Bill Wallace was, Superfoot Bill.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
He was, an honorary coach of our team several times. I went to Africa with him. I went to Italy with him, and I went to Munich, Germany with him. And in particular, when I was in South Africa and in Italy with him, I got to train with him a lot. Plus, I went to a couple of his seminars. And so just the repetition of kicking, and he has a really interesting thing, where he chambers his leg the same way for round kicks, hook kicks, and side kicks.
Yeah.
So it's hard for his opponent
I
to
know
know
what's coming.
And I always found that stuff really interesting. I didn't really take that up myself, although side kicks and hook kicks for me, same chamber, but round kicks are just different to me. So
yeah. So would you round kick more of a sort of Thai boxing way, or?
I try to do it all different ways. One of the things I love is like watching the evolution of the UFC. I'm a big UFC fan, and I love that people are using a lot more front leg now. Because when you look back at Bill Wallace,
Stephen Thompson, Wonderboy Thompson, he must be a favorite of yours.
So yeah, he's a favorite of mine because he does it so much differently than the other guys. But you've seen even Thai boxers adapt now. Muay Thai guys that use side kicks and in a very creative way. I don't know if you watched. Did you see Max Holloway fight on?
I did. Absolutely incredible fight.
Oh my God.
Amazing.
The boxing skills now, the way he slips punches and the pulling of his head out of the
Well,
way.
he was slipping the punches whilst talking to the commentators, wasn't he? And he wasn't even looking at the guy. He was still slipping them. It's like, what the hell's this?
And he's such a tough dude, man. But I love the way he used that side kick. He was using that. He was bothering him with that rear leg side kick he was throwing.
Yeah.
And every once in a while he would switch and then he'd throw it as a front leg side kick. But
he was on a mission to prove something on that one, wasn't he? Because he was robbed at the last fight. So he was really out to prove something there.
Yeah, he looked good. He looked really good. Yeah.
And are you excited for this weekend's fight?
Yes.
Do you like watching McGregor?
I love watching McGregor. I love his man. I've told so many people he must be so hard to fight because, there's no way you can train for somebody that height with that kind of reach and power. And, it's just like, I love it when, when somebody looks just like you're not going to be able to train to fight that guy, and, of course, Habib is just a different story, but Conor made it a long time with him too. But I think he's an amazing striker. I love watching him. He's very creative. He distracts people. He sets them up. And he hits hard.
He hits very hard, yeah, and he's extremely. I mean, part of it for me is he just stacks the odds against him with his mouth, the things he says, and it means that if he loses, it's so much worse because of all the things that he's gone and said. I mean, I did not agree with the things he said to Khabib. That was taking it too far. But the showmanship before that made it really entertaining. Yeah. He went too far on that occasion. But yeah, he's just a very entertaining guy to watch, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just love the thing on Muhammad Ali, and, another documentary. And, the way he would talk to people before. And some people bought into it a little too much. Like I think Joe Frazier did, like he thought that Ali thought he was really saying what he really thought, about him and stuff, which I think it was more of a show with Ali. And he realized, the truth and what he was saying were two different stories, which is an important thing,
Yeah, well, to be an entertainer, to sell the fight and also get into the fighter's head. But like for me growing up, like Muhammad Ali is beloved. But I believe that at the time, there was a lot of people that didn't like him because of his mouth and the way he was.
Yeah.
And obviously the stuff with the Vietnam War and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I have to say that I'm good friends with JJ Perry, who I know you work with on Mortal Kombat. And I remember him saying to me, we were talking about you and your incredible kicks.
Oh.
And I remember him saying, he can fight, man. He's a really
Oh.
good fighter. JJ said that.
I appreciate that because I feel the same way about JJ.
Yeah.
You know, when I got with him and started, you know, we did some training actually in London together when we were getting ready for Mortal Kombat 2. And I ended up fighting him on the bridge, you know, the Sub-Zero Scorpion fight. And he's just, you know, he's a great guy. And man, he's got some powerful kicks, you know, and I actually boxed with him. And, you know, he can just do it. He can do it all, you know. And I was really surprised because a lot of Taekwondo guys don't take the time to learn about boxing. He was obviously well versed in it, you know, and he's a really, really strong, tough dude. Yeah.
Yeah, not to be trifled with, both of you, actually. So when was this?
You
remember?
Okay, so this is yeah. So that might be Germany? Is that possible? Munich, Germany? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I've just found this stuff on YouTube. Some clips of you doing your forms demonstrations.
Yeah. So
amazing stuff.
Yeah, that was, you know, sort of like my individual long fist form. And I had a much more favorite form. It was the eagle claw form that I liked better than this one. And I think I might have done this in some kind of a division that was, you know, more open. And I would do that eagle claw form in a traditional forms division.
Were you a forms champion?
Yes, I was. Yeah.
Yeah. A few years.
I won that WACO World Championships in Munich, the weapons and the forms. And this is the long staff. And that's when I was on the Budweiser team, which
nice.
Yeah.
I love the way you just stand up from the splits. No worries.
Yeah, I had to work at that. Yeah. I remember being in China and they would make me work on that.
Such power and such grace.
Thank you.
It's unusual to find someone that's so good at the Chinese martial arts, but also, you know, kickboxing and the
taekwondo. Oh, this is that eagle claw. This is that eagle claw. So, I'm sorry. What did you say?
Unusual to find someone so good at the Chinese martial arts, but also so versed in kickboxing and those taekwondo type kicks.
You know, maybe, yeah, but you know, I think the way I looked at it was all martial arts. You know, I was like, you know, I want to be the best martial artist that I can be, and you know, you see stuff that you're drawn to it, you know, and I felt that way about the taekwondo kicking, you know, and you know, a lot of, you know, the Muay Thai stuff too. I love it, you know, and it's when somebody gets and they have a really nice, and I think Bruce Lee was doing that, you know, he was bringing a lot of different things together without prejudice, you know, just like this looks like it really works and I'm going to practice it, you know, and I love that. You know, and then, you know, like you were saying, the you know, there's something too, you know, like I've had people come to me, I finally got my butterfly twist. Will you take a look at it, you know, or something like that? Or if I got my 540, you know, like they call it.
It's fun when you break through and you get it finally.
It's like a physical feat, you know, and, you know, and so it gives people confidence and a feeling of accomplishment. I think that's what I've noticed over the years at my studio.
Yeah.
I felt a little let down with competitions, you know, after a while. It just seems like, you know, like, where are you going to go from here, you know? And sometimes I even worry about the UFC a little bit, like, where are all those guys going to do, you know? But I think it's getting a little bit better. You know, I think I got a little disillusioned with wushu when it didn't make it into the Olympic Games, you know, and I actually had a student who went and got a gold medal in the Beijing Olympics in 2008 when it was a demonstration sport.
Yeah.
And I had high hopes for it. And then it went away, you know, and I was like, wow, you know, it's sort of like just getting the rug pulled out from under you, you know?
Well, they were talking not long ago about getting rid of the wrestling, right? Getting rid of wrestling from Olympics. And isn't that the Olympics, wrestling? That's what you think of when you think of the Olympics.
Yeah. Yeah. Like Roman Greco wrestling, you know? And, you know, the Japanese karate was supposed to be in for 2020 in the, you know, the Olympics in Tokyo. And then that got canceled or postponed. And now they're already saying they're not going to pick up karate, you know? And
I think in my head, I always felt like, you know, you could never have MMA in the Olympics, because I feel like you've got boxing and it's just your fists, and they've got the taekwondo and it's the style that is just the feet.
Yeah.
And I felt like, well, maybe that, and they've got wrestling, and maybe they were looking at it from that angle of, well, it has to be that specific discipline, it has to be this specific discipline. When you're mixing two together like karate or MMA, maybe it's not for the Olympics. I don't know.
I think it's also, you know, like worldwide infrastructure, you know, like just having the, you know, everybody on board with the same thing worldwide and having a lot of support and interest in it. So they know there's going to be viewers, you know, for that, whatever you're doing, you know?
Yeah. How did you get into the world of films then? How did that come about?
Well, my instructor, Roger Tung, had moved to Los Angeles, and, you know, he was always after me to come down and work for him. And I wanted to get into films, you know, and I think it goes back to Chuck Norris and Bruce Lee and everyone. You know, a lot of my role models were in the movies, and so I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know what I was doing, but I moved down here and I started taking acting classes while I was still teaching at my instructor's studio right near Monterey Park, and kept working at it. I was competing, and one day, out of the blue, Fred Weintraub, who produced Enter the Dragon, called me on the phone. And that's you know, I thought somebody was playing a joke on me or something like that. I couldn't believe it. And he had gotten my name from Dave Cater at Inside Kung Fu magazine. And
you've been on the cover of Inside Kung Fu magazine at this point?
Yeah.
Many times.
And I think I was in there at this point. I had been in their Hall of Fame twice, you know, for Competitor of the Year. And so, and I knew Dave Cater really well. He had traveled to, you know, events that I had been at. We, you know, hung out together and stuff like that. So he told Fred Weintraub about me for this part of Dakota. And I said, well, I just worked out. I'll come over. He wanted me to come over to his office. And I said, let me take a shower and I'll be, no, he said, come right now, you know? And so I had my Kung Fu pants on, you know, and stuff from working out, just went straight over there. And I remember in the meeting, he goes,
that's perfect.
So you do martial arts? And I just stood up and I said, you want to see some? I was just so ready, you know? And so then, yeah, I ended up in that China O'Brien movie. And that was a great.
So you must have known Cynthia from the Forms circuit.
I did. Yes. Yeah.
Did you know
I didn't know Richard Norton, but I knew Cynthia for quite a while. You know, we knew each other well because we'd been to so many events together. Yeah.
They shot the film 1 and 2 at the same time, right?
That's what I was just going to say. Yeah. And so that was interesting. On any given day, you could be at some location shooting a scene from, you know, the China O'Brien 1 or China O'Brien 2. And it might be a slight, you know, hair adjustment or, you know, different outfit that you wear or something like that. But it was interesting. Yeah.
That was pretty forward thinking. I mean, when the Lord of the Rings was done that way, that was like, wow.
Yeah.
But back in those days, it wasn't, it must have been quite a new thing, but they must have known it was going to be a slam dunk success.
Yeah.
Now, it was the director of Enter the Dragon as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, Robert Klaus.
And did
Yes.
they bring over a Chinese sort of crew to do the stunts?
Yes. Yes. And it was, because that was Golden Harvest.
Yeah.
Um, so they were very, tied in to the Hong Kong. And so they had a whole Hong Kong stunt team there, which was great, because it was my first time really doing a movie. I'd only done one movie before that, and it was like a Playboy bunny movie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was
I
in
mean,
Hawaii, which was really cool. I got to go to Hawaii, and but it was just somebody in my acting class. Their girlfriend's dad was directing this movie, and they needed somebody that could do a backflip.
oh yeah.
And, and so I went there, and this is kind of a funny story. They go, say, hey, and I go, hey, and you can do a backflip, right? And I go, yeah. They go, you got the part.
There you go.
So that was pretty cool. But
That's
that was
not
my
far off
only,
one of the jobs I had, to be honest. Kind of
yeah.
similar. Well, let's look at a bit of China O'Brien. You doing
Okay.
what you do best. Spin kicking 3 people at the same time. Come on.
It's, it's a lot harder than it looks.
Now, what was more annoying, the headband or the fact that you only had one hand?
I actually broke my thumb when we were doing some promotional shots before the film, and they were almost going to let me go because they were worried that, and I had to actually get surgery right before we started. No, during the filming. And because my thumb was actually broken all the way through right here. And so they had to put pins in it. But so most of the film I was fighting with the thumb broken, and there was a cast under there.
Well, so was that the reason for having the hand like that?
Yeah. The hand thing came as, written in because I had that injury. So.
Oh, okay. Just excellent agility.
Thank you.
Oh, that's like the Back to the Future car. So you're having to do all the stuff basically in a big wide and just rehearse it with these stunt guys and go for it in one wide shot.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of that, and of course, I didn't know at the time different. I understood about camera angles somewhat, but like I was aware of where the camera was and if it was going to, be a hit or a miss, but I didn't know a lot about, masters and, coverage and stuff like that at that time.
But you didn't, I could tell you didn't have a problem with, the whole screen fighting, selling a punch and getting hit and the distance and the timing.
I think I'd imagined myself doing this for a long enough time that I really wanted to do a good job. So
it was probably riding the bike that was the most difficult.
I actually had a motorcycle at the time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been trying to get my motorbike license because I always struggle with that bit. Now, this is incredible. You've done all that in one shot, and then has he got a knife or something?
It's so funny that you would say that because I never even realized that. I never thought about it, but it's
crazy that you've done all this in one shot, and then you kick whatever's in his hand up in the air.
Yeah, I think it might have been keys to something.
The keys. Do you actually grab the keys?
I did.
And then you kick him so quick. That's brilliant. Pop, shoot, pop. Come on, Keith. That's incredible.
I haven't seen that for such a long time. I forgot about it, but
most people would be like, "Oh, I'll catch the keys, and if I catch the keys, great, we've got it." You're catching the keys, and as soon as you're catching the keys, you're doing an expertly fast back kick.
There's a cut though, right? There's no cut. Okay, because I think I remember having to do it a few times.
It's brilliant stuff. And here comes the triple kick.
Wow.
You're just so fast. Real speed. So how many takes would you have to do in terms of getting the punch placement in the right place?
Well, like that right there looked like I lost my balance, because I remember that I was like, how did this make it into the movie? I guess they liked the kick or something. You could see that I'm off balance.
The reason I've put this in slow motion is because I never realized this when I first watched it. If I'd seen this kick when I was a kid, I would have been trying to do it. You're doing a back kick, but you're doing an extra spin.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So for me, I've actually never seen that kick, because normally you would have the other leg forward.
Yeah.
All the way around, bang. That's a difficult kick to perform, I should think.
Well, that's why I think jumping kicks are so valuable, because, you know, like even when I'm not doing a jump kick, I love to get my feet loose from the floor, so I feel more mobile, you know, like I'm not stuck. Like, I don't know if you ever look at people's standing foot when they're kicking, and some people's foot is kind of dead on the floor. Yours isn't. I mean, I think it's from all those jump kicks and then the rhythm work that you do, you know. I find that very useful. And I think part of the ability to do that, that I've seen in teaching kids over the years, is to get them to do jump kicks. So they're not relying on the foot that they're standing on the floor to be so solid that you can be on the move after you pick up your kicking foot. You know, your bottom foot can move, you know. And it's like jumping without jumping, sort of. And I think it's very useful. It's very useful.
Like I did a bit of teaching as well. And so to teach just the spinning back hook kick, they would get so caught up on spinning on that foot. And are you on the ball of the foot? Are you on the heel?
Yes.
Is it going around enough? And he said, well, just put a little skip in there. Take the weight off the foot and just work on the spin with the arms, and a lot easier, right?
Yeah, even on a rear leg round kick, you know, you have that big rotation in your standing foot. And I believe it's almost like, to get that foot loose, you can do one of two things. You can sort of lift, or you can sort of drop, where you become weightless anyway. You know, like when you're in an elevator, it drops really fast and you become weightless for that moment. That creates, like, you know, that foot, any friction with the floor is gone for that moment. So you can do it by lifting your foot off, you know, rather than jumping first. You just lift your foot off for the moment, and you have that dropping sensation, and you do the kick during that sensation, and you're rid of that challenge of friction, you know, and it's so much better for your joints and everything.
This guy here looks like he's absolutely crapping himself. You're pounding away at him.
That guy?
Yeah.
You know, I really appreciate that guy. I've thought of him over the years. There's another scene in China O'Brien 2 where he's sitting in a diner or something, and I side kicked him in the head, and I actually accidentally kicked him. And he was so cool about it, you know, but you can see it in the movie. You can see his head just go bam like that, you know?
Yeah.
And,
well, yeah, sometimes it happens. I can see that you're incredibly precise, and you're able to get your foot quite close to them because you understand the distance. Of course, sometimes they're not in the place where they're supposed. So sometimes just it happens, doesn't it? It's part of the game.
Yeah, yeah.
Getting hit is part of the job. Let's be honest.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hit some people, you know, and I saw, you know, like I did a movie in the Philippines called Heatseeker, and
that's coming up.
Shot the whole thing in 10 days, you know, the whole movie.
Oh, yeah. It kind of shows. It kind of shows. Well, so after China O'Brien, can I ask, because I was a kid and it came out on video, and I remember loads of it, like loads of copies of China O'Brien everywhere. And it was kind of a big thing. I know maybe it didn't get a cinema release, but in terms of on home video, it felt like it was a big success to me.
You know, I don't know how successful it was, you know.
It was everywhere in the UK.
Yeah. Yeah. And I got that impression. I got the impression that it was very popular in Europe and Eastern Europe, and but I don't think it was as popular in the US for some reason.
Right. At that time, that was just right at the time when it felt like home video martial arts movies, American-made martial arts movies, just starting to blow up. And I don't know. I think Van Damme came a little bit after China O'Brien, maybe, or around the same time. But it exploded around that point.
I think it might. He might have done. What was it? What was it? Bloodsport might have been just before that or something, because I remember.
What year did China O'Brien come out? Do you remember? 90.
I think it was 88.
I think Bloodsport was 89. You see.
Okay.
For me, anyway, in the UK.
All right.
It was around that time, and it just exploded. You know, the American Ninja was happening, and then all these films started flooding out. And me, as a teenager growing up, every week there was a new American-made martial arts movie. And yeah, some of them were pretty ropey, but as a teenager, I just, you know, took it all in. And
I think actually Steven Seagal came out not around that time too, and Brandon Lee, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember how I got how they found me or heard of me, but I just got called out to audition there. And I remember seeing Don the Dragon Wilson in the waiting room where you're waiting to go in for the audition. I was like, oh man, he's trying out for this part. And then I heard that Benny tried out for it too, Benny the Jet.
Oh yeah.
But I was really, I was really determined at that time, and that was one of the most fun auditions I ever had, because Lauren was there, Lauren Avedon was there, and NG, the producer, he was there. And I think the writer, Keith Strandberg was there. And we did the lines and stuff like that, and they didn't look so impressed, and then he says, okay, let's see some martial arts. And he goes, Lauren, get up with Keith. And I was just like, okay, I'm going to have to kick his ass because, I want this part, The
actor didn't go so well. You're going to have to kick the crap out of the lead actor.
Yeah. How often does that happen in an audition, And so, but I took full advantage of it. I was just missing him like by this much to the head. And I was kicking him pretty much full out on the legs, because I knew this guy's a Thai boxer, right? So I was kicking his legs, just going after him. And Lauren was like, whoa, what are you doing? And I looked over at NG, the producer, and he was laughing. So, but I had a good time in that audition. That was fun.
Well, he got you the part.
Yeah.
The part. Now, I've got a massive soft spot for this movie. I absolutely adore it. Seen it so many times. Really enjoy the story of the Tea Master.
Yeah.
When the warrior saw that the Tea Master was completely ready to die, he turned and ran away. The warrior who clings to life will surely die. He who embraces death will survive. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I think so. You want me to learn to make tea?
The drunken guy,
Yeah. The drunken guy that kicks all kinds of ass. Talk me through this, please, Keith.
Yeah. I don't know if you know that Corey Ewan came in and directed the scene. And I think it's the only scene in the movie that he directed. And it was amazing because they had the director's name was Lucas. And I can't remember his last name right now, but, everybody in the crew would run around, do whatever they're doing and stuff. As soon as Corey Ewan got there, everybody was like soldiers, It was like that, everybody was like working, paying attention, and I noticed it. But he was so cool to work with, I feel so, I didn't really understand how lucky I was at the time, but they told me, this guy's amazing. You're so lucky to have him here. And he just said, okay, these guys are going to come at you from here. What do you want to do? And we really want you to kick as much as possible, And I go, okay, well, how about this? And you go, sure. Can you do this too when you do that? And I go, yeah, I can do that. Can you hold your leg out and then turn around like this? And I said, yeah. What do you want to kick this guy with? So it was pretty much, he was just like, he wanted me to feel free to do what I like to do, and then he shot it and we did it all, I want to say in about 5 hours, like the whole, It's
You see the camera shadow on the guy's back here?
What's that?
See the camera shadow on the guy's back?
Yeah, yeah. And there were tracks, there was tracks there. They were on the camera was moving on tracks.
Oh yeah.
That was
incredible stuff. That triple kick, I worked on that for a long time to get, not this one, but the other one.
Yeah.
That first kick you do, the triple kick there, that used to be one of my most favorite kicks to do.
Yeah.
But then on one film I did it and I tore my groin muscle.
Wow.
And I just can't do it anymore. It always aggravates it, and I'm worried that it will happen again. So that kick has vanished from my arsenal.
Oh, wow.
But thank you for that kick, though, because I did that kick a lot back in the day, and I copied you.
I mean, that's another one with rhythm. Like you have to get the first kick off early, so you have time for the next two. And
yeah,
I love that stuff.
Oh, it's incredible stuff, and it looks like you really hit this guy hard. But I think maybe he's just jumping. But it looks like you completely leather him. Bang. I'm
sure I hit some of those guys, and that was what I was going to say about working there and in the Philippines. They just hand the guy a few extra bucks,
Oh yeah.
And they're happy. They're like, yeah, can you hit me again?
Yeah. They're tough guys. I like working there as well.
There were some Jackie Chan stunt team guys there, and this guy right here who I just kicked. The first guy was a guy from Thailand, and I came in with that kick and he kept moving back, so I couldn't get the next two off. And then that guy goes, I'll do it. And we got it on the first time that he... Yeah, his experience to understand you needed him to push off. Yes. It's a great film. I love it. It's cheesy and, some of it, you can laugh at it, but it's just great fun. And yeah. I really lapped up this stuff when I was a kid. It's part of the reason why I do what I do is, this film and other films like it. It's pretty cool. So this is you in Heatseeker. So this was a 10-day shoot. Yeah. And, you were talking about, like length of shots and stuff like this. This was all masters. Even though you see a lot of cuts, they hid cameras. This guy, Albert Pion, who also directed a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, the Cyborg one. I think it was called Cyborg, maybe. Yeah, Cyborg, and he did Nemesis with Olivier Gruner. Yeah. Okay, but what he does is, there was a day we had fights and they had over 1,000, I don't know if it was 1,000 feet of footage or something like that. It must have been an editor's nightmare because everything was shot. You didn't know where you were playing to the cameras. They were hidden in the audience. They were hidden around. He would shoot with 10 cameras at once, Well, that's the worst. I mean, just got to try and hit your partner. Here you are with Gary Daniels. Yeah. Of course. I wish we would have had more time because I think we could have made this into so much of a better fight. So how did Mortal Kombat come about? I was trying to get the role of Liu Kang, so I went on, I would say like 5 callbacks or something like that. I think it got down to about 4 people they were looking at. And of course, Robin ended up getting that role. And I thought that was it, but Robin and I were friends from way back, from our instructors, our martial arts instructors knew each other. So we had worked out like back around 1980, 1982, we went to China together. And we were good friends. So after the filming of Mortal Kombat, the first one, they decided they wanted more action. And that's when they built some sets at the Van Nuys Airport out here. And Robin called me up and said, hey, Keith, I'd really like you to come and, fight me for this scene, And so that's how I got that part. And then Jeff Imada was working on that. So it was added. It was added after the film was already been edited. It had already been, all that had been done, and they added it. Oh, so they just realized they didn't have enough action, and we better put some more martial arts into this martial arts movie. Exactly. Yeah? Exactly. Yeah. Well, this is the best fight in the film. Oh, thank you. Yeah. And I really, this is a good film when it came out, it did what it said on the tin, it was Mortal Kombat. Yeah. And it was pretty cool, man, with a great soundtrack. Yeah. And, I really like the director. And, you know, we had 6 days to shoot that fight, which is such a big luxury, you know. I guess that kind of, I don't remember if that included any rehearsal, but we had some rehearsal, definitely.
So is Jeff Amada choreographing this?
It was really Robin. I think, you know, he was the stunt coordinator for these reshoots. But
okay.
yeah, but I think
All that
Robin
experience
was
from the Hong Kong movies, you knew what needed to be done.
yeah, I mean, I did actually 2 TV pilots too, which nobody's ever seen because they didn't get picked up, you know. And I hired Jeff Imada for both of those to do the choreography.
Okay.
I really like the, you know, the guys from from Dan Inosanto's place. Just like working with those guys is always good. They're always so relaxed, you know, and it's just a good thing.
Well, Chad was one of those guys, right?
Exactly. There was a lot of them on, because there was a guy named Burt Richardson who was the fight coordinator on that Heatseeker. So he brought all these guys from there, and that's where I met those guys.
Okay, good. So how long did you spend shooting this fight sequence here with our mate JJ?
I want to say a couple of days. And I think that lighting was really challenging on the underneath portion of the bridge, you know. It feels like it was really hard to see in there for the camera to see what's going on.
Right.
And it was kind of dark. I don't know. And the other thing was, you know,
on this bridge.
yeah, and the snow and ice that you see on the bridge there, that JJ's sliding down right there, that's actually salt that they poured on there. So it's sort of like fighting in sand. It was soft and slippery.
Yeah.
And, you know, like a lot of times you're rehearsing something, you know, on a rehearsal stage or whatever, and then you go there and it's like they have you in sand or mud and it just doesn't work the same way.
And the costume guys have given me some boots with no grip and all the rest of it, and they're too heavy.
Yeah. Yeah. But, you know, overall it was, you know, it was a great experience. And like I said, I loved working with JJ too. And tremendous set there, you know, that they built. So it's amazing. You know, it's totally different than being on one of the low budget type movies, you know.
Tell me about it, man.
Yeah.
Not too much time on the low budget ones, me.
Oh my God.
I get very disappointed when it's when the hard work gets ruined in the editing room, and I'm sure you've experienced that many times. I do make sure that I'm involved in the editing these days with my movies when I'm the star, but there was, you know, quite a few in the past where, you know, you've bled for it, you've injured yourself, you've been hitting each other stupid, and then they cut it together and you can't, like, that nice kick that you wanted to show all in one, they've cut into it, or they're using the wrong angles. It's so disappointing.
Why do they have you?
Exactly.
You know, this spot, you know, a martial arts master, and then they cut it in a way where any actor could have done it or something like that.
Yeah, I did a flying kick and it was a close up on my face.
Yeah.
Very disappointing. No, but listen, Keith Cooke, it's been a pleasure to watch you throughout the years doing incredible martial arts. One of the best kickers I've ever seen, and that is the straight up truth. One of the very best. And I know you're an extremely accomplished martial artist. You have your martial arts school. How long has the Keith Cooke school been open? I know at the moment with the pandemic, but what year did it open?
27 years.
Yeah.
At that same location. And, you know, we teach a lot of kids. I mean, we teach adults too. And I've had a fitness program almost from the beginning. I do a lot of boot camps and keeps me in shape. I teach kickboxing classes, like shadow boxing and bag classes. And I still do them now. I have a backyard dojo that has a cover over it, but it's outdoors. And I teach conditioning classes, which I'm working on a new business actually, which is fitness. And basically it's strength training with a lot of focus on the core. I have a device that I developed. I've been teaching classes with it for years now. And it's a band device that you do a lot of rotational exercises and presses and stuff like that. It's really versatile. I do a lot of balancing in the class. It's really good for the brain. And I have a lot of women that do that class, I think, because it's not maybe as intimidating as a martial arts class, but it has a lot of martial arts concepts in it. And so I'm building a website now and building that product. So that's my next project.
Well, that sounds great. Best of luck with that. How
Thank
old
you.
are you now, Keith?
61.
Oh, wow. I mean, look at the shape you're in. You're in incredible shape. So, you know, in terms of putting out fitness information, you can't go wrong with you. I mean, you're still in amazing shape.
Yeah, I mean, you know, like I think that's one thing that's great about martial arts is that you're doing something very functional. You know, everybody talks about functional fitness, you know, but I think I've gotten away from like the macho stuff, like lifting weights and stuff like that, and I just use tubes and my own body weight, and I usually do something that has to do with posture and balance and rotation now, and it really keeps me in shape. So I'm grateful, you know.
Well, Keith, you're an inspiration to me. I wish you best of luck in the future in all your endeavors. And thank you so much for coming on The Art of Acting.
Thanks for having me. Good luck to you too.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you, Keith.
Thank you.